Okay, well, welcome everyone to the October 13th, 2020 special city council meeting. Please let the record reflect that all council members are present, with the exception of Councilmember Lopez, who's asked to be excused. Every time we move, everybody changes their spot, so I have to make sure I can still find everybody. Thank you. I'll go ahead and read the chair's determination. This is the council chair determination to hold electronic meetings without anchor location. In accordance with Utah Code 52.3.2074, I have determined that conducting meetings of the Ogden City Council with an anchor location presents a substantial risk to the health and safety of those who may be present due to the infectious nature and potentially dangerous health effects of contracting the COVID-19 virus. This determination is based on the following. Utah has been in a declared state of emergency due to COVID-19 since March 6, 2020. The World Health Organization has characterized the spread of COVID-19 as a pandemic. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention, or the CDC, has determined that COVID-19 is easily spread between or among people who are in close contact with each other through airborne respiratory droplets and may be spread by people who are non-symptomatic. Federal, state, and local health authorities recommend limiting public gatherings, wearing face masks, and following social distancing guidelines. Currently, physical distancing measures are difficult to set up and maintain in the City Council chambers. Based on the foregoing, all public meetings, including work sessions and meetings of the Redevelopment Agency, will be held electronically through October 31st, 2020. Information on how to connect to the electronic public meetings will be posted on each agenda. The public may comment during the electronic meeting during public hearings or provide public input on items designated for input on the agenda. General public comments will also be taken during regular meetings. Written public comments may also be submitted through the following electronic options. Telephonic message at 801-629-8158, public comment submission form at ogdencity.com/public input, or email at citycouncil@ogdencity.com. And this statement was issued and became effective October 6, 2020. Great. To start this evening, Councilmember Stevens has offered to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, Councilmember Stevens.
Thank you for this honor, Chair. Would all rise and repeat after me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now, please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you all. Now, I just wanted to make sure, Brandon, if our guests are here. I'm just not able to see.
They are indeed.
Great, fantastic. Well, we welcome you. I believe Susie Van Hoosier is here along with her husband. And we have a recognition that we're planning to give that Vice Chair Blair has agreed to present.
Yes, thank you, Chair Chaburka. It's my pleasure to read this for Susie. And it reads, the Ogden City Council and Mayor proudly recognize Susan Van Hoosier for providing invaluable contributions to the Ogden community. An Ogden resident for over 40 years, Susan Van Hoosier, known by friends as Susie, has shown undeniable dedication to the service of others in Ogden. Susie was appointed to fill an Ogden City Council vacancy in 2006 and was elected to the same seat by the citizens of Ogden in 2009. She served as the council vice chair in 2010 and had significant involvement in Ogden's demolition by neglect ordinance and other historic preservation initiatives, including Union Station museums. Susie's selflessness extends far beyond her service as a council member. As a member and former chairman of the Ogden City Landmarks Commission, she was heavily involved in the oversight of the restoration of the Egyptian Theater, the Ogden City Municipal Building, and the redevelopment of 25th Street. She is a past president of the Weber County Heritage Foundation and was instrumental in the restoration of the lime kiln in Ogden Canyon. She was also active in promoting the annual home tour, which in 2009 raised $10,000 in support of the restoration of Ogden High School. Susie served hundreds of Ogden students as an elementary school teacher. She served on the Ogden Salvation Army Board, Crossroads of the West Advisory Committee, and was the vice president of the Egyptian Theater Foundation Board. For several years, she was also a member of the Miss Rodeo Ogden and Miss Rodeo Utah committees. She also served on the Ogden Pioneer Day 75th Anniversary Committee. Susie and her supportive husband, Dwayne, organized the Pioneer Days Parade for several years. She was a driving force in the massive undertaking of the establishment of the Pioneer Heritage Museum, which in turn led to the creation of the Utah Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum. We are deeply grateful for Susie's incredible service to the Ogden community. The way we enjoy Ogden today was heavily influenced and made possible by her resolute determination. And that's presented this 13th day of October, 2020. So I would like to present that to former council member Susie Van Hoosier and for her wonderful spouse, Dwayne, who may not have been on the roll on those boards, but has served just as tirelessly in all those capacities, just like Susie. So she's a wonderful, wonderful example of service, and it's an honor to know her and to be able to serve with her.
Yes, and if we were in the chambers, we would all be doing a huge applause and standing up to thank you so much for your service. And shaking your hands and taking a photo, of course, but not in this time. Would you like to say anything? I think you're unmuted now. Just said connecting to audio, and now you need to unmute.
Yep.
Maybe Bart's on the phone with her right now. Okay. You might be able to put her on speaker and we could hear her.
Yeah. So we're going to try this. Okay, Susie, 1 second. Okay, go ahead and speak now, Susie.
Okay. I wanted to thank you I appreciate the fact that you gave me the award, but from the city council, that's just wonderful. I have enjoyed every minute of it and wouldn't take one back, and love being in this city with friends and family, and it's just been a great experience for Dwayne and I both.
Thank you so much. I think there's some other folks that would like to make some comments. You may want to say who you are before you speak in case you can only hear us.
Thank you.
Sarah, I'd love to say a few words.
Please go ahead.
Susie, you were so kind to me when I was a brand new freshman council member. You took me by the hand and you kind of helped me to get my footing, and I so appreciated that. You were always so kind to me, and you know, your passion for the things that were important to you were a real driving force. Kind of taught me how to be a council member. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Would anybody else like to make a comment?
Thank you.
Sure, if I can.
Yes,
I can wait till the council's done if you want me to.
Oh, go right ahead.
Well, I ran against Susie on my first run for this, and she taught me all about grace, humility, and how to approach things. And as a neighbor and a friend, I just want to tell her and Dwayne that I love them both. I get to see them occasionally at the store and in other environments, and you are really a great example of how to run, how to do it gracefully, how to bring people along, and how to bring people together. So thank you very much. I'm honored that we were able to do this, and I love you all.
Thanks so much. Any other comments?
Sure, I could just take a few minutes.
Sure. Councilmember Stevens and then Councilmember White.
Susie, we go back a long ways. Well, I won't tell them how far back, but I do appreciate the time I spent on the council with you, and also with Ogden Pioneer Days. Those two entities are what makes Ogden a little bit different and special in a lot of eyes. Susie, you had such a calming, and your knowledge and understanding really helped all council members to understand what is important, what is necessary for Ogden, and what we needed to do to make a difference here in Ogden, Utah. And Susie, along with your companion, Dwayne, you did make a difference in Ogden, Utah. We're much better as a city because of your service. And you are a good friend, and I appreciate everything that you've contributed to Ogden. You had the citizens' mind, you had their interest and their desires, and I thank you for that.
Chair, if I could jump in here. So thankfully, Councilmember Stevens said everything I needed to say, Susie, to you. I'm just kidding. So Susie, I just want to say thank you for being the advocate for Ogden. I as a new council member, I remember one of the things that you told me was always make sure that you are paying attention and looking the constituents in the eyes. And even on those late nights when you get tired and you don't want to look them in the eye and you just want to go home, I always think of you, and I appreciate it. Appreciate your counsel on that. It gets a little harder now on Zoom calls, but thank you to you and Dwayne. You are definitely like I said, the advocates of Ogden. So thank you very much for all you do for us. Thanks.
Jared, can't be the only council member not to say something, but I didn't get to serve with Susie on the council, but her reputation certainly was certainly well earned and really clear when I first started. And I just hope she knows that her impact to the council culture, I think, is still very relevant today, and that her contributions are beyond the decisions and the work that she did at the time, that her grace has transcended her time there. And just want her to know that I admire her for that.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to make comment?
Hey, Bart,
Yes.
Can Susie respond?
Sure. Yes, go ahead.
Here we go. Just say thank you that you were saying all along.
I wonder, I'm trying to think of what you need to mute so that we can still hear, because there's kind of an echo.
Let's try that.
Okay.
Okay, Susie, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I can't always hear what everybody's saying, but thanks so much for this honor. There's no other word to say for it. And I look forward to seeing you all and still be in the picture and try to keep things moving as far as I'm concerned with Pioneer Days and the museum. And I think it's one of those things that Ogden should be very proud of. So thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Susie, and Dwayne, for everything.
And Dwayne, that's right.
Yes, thank you so much. Definitely a formidable leader in the community. Two formidable leaders. Thank you.
Okay, you.
Okay, next up, we have approval of the minutes. So we have the work session of April 23rd, 2020. That's Councilmember Heyer.
As chair, I reviewed those minutes and found them to be accurate to the best of my recollection.
Thank you. And I believe Councilmember Nadolski is taking the next two items, the work session of April 28th, 2020, and the joint work session of May 19th, 2020.
Thank you, Chair. I've reviewed those minutes and they reflect my recollection as well accurately. Thank you.
And then also we have the work session of May 26th, 2020, Councilmember White.
Yes, I've reviewed those and they are accurate to my best of my recollection.
And finally, the regular meeting of May 26th, 2020, Councilmember Stevens.
Yes, Chair, they're correct, and I have reviewed those. I make a motion that we adopt the minutes that have been presented this evening.
Second.
So we have a motion by Councilmember Stevens and a second by Councilmember Nadolski to approve the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We have one common consent item for setting a public hearing for the fiscal year 2021 to 2025 capital improvement plan amendment.
Chair, I'll make a motion that we set the public hearing for the item listed in the common consent agenda, proposed ordinance 2020-52.
Second.
Any seconds?
Councilmember Nadolski seconded.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't hear him. I missed that. So we have a motion by Councilmember Heyer and a second by Councilmember Nadolski, and this is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. That passes. For reports from administration, we have an engineering standard about the refuse carts on the agenda, and we have Taylor Nielsen with engineering who's going to give us a presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just trying to make sure I had everything up and ready to go. I got a couple of slides I'd like to just share with everyone, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
Hopefully I have the right screen showing. And probably just as a precursor, I know that we had some comments prior to this meeting about some different items we wanted to discuss. Tonight, what I will do is I will just present the item as we brought it to council, and then I know we can have some of those further discussions right after I present. So I hope that's okay to move forward that direction.
Sounds good.
So the item that we wanted to discuss tonight was the location of the refuse carts. And if you guys will remember back in our engineering standards a couple weeks ago, we brought in some changes and adjustments with street widths. One of these adjustments was also alleyways, which is 20 feet wide, and brought about some new and interesting changes to some of our standards along with new development that we'd be talking about. But this was just kind of a throwback to some of the standards that we had reviewed. In doing that, we had started to review some of the other items in relation to some of the automated refuse carts and talking about ensuring what we can do to try and better our productivity through the city and ensure we're able to complete, to run appropriate service, to be able to service all the residents. And one of the items in talking with some of our refuse collection personnel was we were having some issues collecting on roads that were smaller than 20 feet wide. And that was the asphalt width was one of the items that we had discussed. And so in going through with Vince, who is the manager of that public service group and the right-of-way group, we were just trying to ensure that we could provide a great quality service to our residents and try and limit things like callbacks and other items that I know we've had problems with in the past. And so what we wanted to do tonight is just show you a couple different scenarios of items that we were worried about and why we came back and made a proposal like this. Again, understanding that we know we have some additional items that we'll discuss here in a few minutes. But one of the items that we had, and this was a street in particular that we were talking about, was right off of Wall Avenue. And so this is north of 2nd Street. And what we had is we had a street width that was smaller than the 20 feet. You can see that small street there on the left, and then the street view there on the right. And so it's hard when you have a large garbage truck to go down to the end of that street to maneuver and to get around and make its way back out. So we've worked with some of these residents to have them take their refuse bins out to the nearest street. In some instances, it was Wall Avenue, or in some it was the road there to the north. And that's been working very well. And all my lights turned out, so that's good. And that's been working really well in some of those instances. And so we were trying to say, is there something that we could do to try and fix some of these things going forward? So normally what will happen is when we get streets that are 20 feet or less, we end up with cars that park on the road. And this is a picture of something that you see right here of this Jeep. And what we wanted to do is I didn't want to go out and just find cars. I wanted to go to some Google Street Views as well and show that this is probably an ongoing problem. And as you have some of these vehicles that remain on the road, it leaves a very limited space for even a large garbage truck trying to get by. And even if you're driving some of your personal cars, sometimes that only leaves 6 to 8 feet of space left, and I know is very tight. And so that's one of the concerns that we were starting to have. Here's another one, was a parking petition that we had done lately. And you can see just of trying to navigate a garbage truck up and down a road like this, picking up the refuse bins, it becomes a difficult challenge, especially for some of our staff members who we're trying to ensure we can put them in successful situations and try and limit the most amount of impact that we can to residents, their property, but also ensure we're able to pick up items like refuse in a timely manner and have as little return visits as possible. Sometimes in instances like this, when we do have vehicles that are parked and in the way, they do become problematic, and it makes it so our staff members have to return multiple times. Here is just another item. You can see, again, that road's smaller than 20 feet. You have cars parked on both sides of the road. Again, trying to navigate a garbage truck through items like this becomes more and more difficult. And so it's just these different items we were trying to ensure that, again, we could provide a great public service of picking up the refuse, but at the same time trying to ensure that we do it as quickly and as efficiently as possible to continue to meet the routes and the needs of our city. Here was another one that was over on the east end, and you can see this was a street that they have problems with, and one vehicle is more than enough to block off almost the entire roadway. So there's no getting through when anyone's there. Of course, you can see we have a no parking sign posted, and it's just the continued coordination and effort that it goes with the different residents or businesses, whoever else that will continue to block these roads and get in the way. And so we were just trying to do the best that we could, trying to move forward with some of these processes and items. And so that was my last photo. And so that was probably largely the discussion that we wanted to have was our hope was we could improve our public service, our efficiency, and trying to limit some of the problems that we would have with our staff in collecting refuse, but continue to provide a great service to the city. And I'm happy to take any questions. I'm just going to step right over real quick and turn my light back on.
Thank you so much. And and I think we all do really appreciate the work that's gone into thinking about how to resolve the issue. We did get some feedback from different residents that are possibly impacted by this change, just concerns about, if you're a little bit older or if you have some ability challenges, that sometimes it might be hard for people to take the refuse bins to the end of the road. And I know you indicated you've worked with several individuals already in this case, but there was a little feedback in the work session too. I don't know if anybody else would like to discuss some of that.
Chair, I'd like a little education. It just kind of occurred to me. I wonder if Taylor would address this street does not look even like it would be a dedicated street. Is it a dedicated roadway?
This one is a dedicated roadway, and that's a great question, Councilmember Heyer. We have a lot of roads that we would think in the past may not have been dedicated streets, but at some point throughout the last 10 to 40 years, potentially has been dedicated. We've worked with Greg Montgomery and planning staff to try and put some items in to ensure that if we are accepting a road or a street, that it meets our current standards, so that we don't take on roads of this nature anymore. But it does look like we do have, in fact, right-of-way on some of these roads that we are bringing to you.
So the streets that have the blue street sign that indicates it's not a dedicated road, they don't do garbage collection down those roads anyway, then is that correct?
On those streets that are private streets, that's a good question. I am not sure. I'd have to check and get back to you on that one.
Maybe that's one of the things you'll check on when we give you a little more time with this.
Absolutely.
Would anybody else like to comment or have any questions? So I think just to try to summarize, we've asked the staff maybe to come back with a few pieces of information for us. If in fact a council member decides to propose tabling this item, and would anybody like to speak to what they would like to have back, or did the staff take some notes about that? I have some thoughts, but I don't want to say the wrong things.
And Chair Chaburka, if you don't mind if I chime in quickly too, we did notice this as a public input opportunity. And so if you would like, there may be some public here interested in commenting as well, if that's something you have interest in at this point.
Absolutely, yeah. I was just thinking if we mentioned first the items that we had asked for more information about, that might help some of the public. So I think we asked for some information about alternate trash pickup opportunities, I'm going to say, or trucks. Maybe also some information about the cost for that. Was there anything else I'm forgetting?
One thing we had talked about is distinguishing the difference between a narrow roadway versus a cul-de-sac.
Right.
That was one of the things that we asked for some more information about.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I think it's important that the people that are here to comment recognize that we did listen to their input, and we have been responsive to it, and we're happy that we got that.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, one of the other ideas is we noticed that one street does have no parking on it, but maybe if we even have limits on some streets around certain times of day when the garbage pickup might happen. So it's not all the time not parking, but maybe Wednesday from 9 in the morning to 12 p.m. or something. Is that a possibility too? So I think they're going to come back with a little bit of information about that.
One thing before public comments on this, I'm kind of curious. If I was living on a street like that, I'd like to know how they feel. Would they rather have a problem with, would they rather take their garbage can down to the end of the road, or would they rather have their car towed? Because I think it's kind of one of those, it's one of the two. And I'd like to get some input from the people that are going to
only if they're breaking the rule about parking.
Right. Yeah.
I'm just teasing.
but it is kind of you can't have it both ways. So,
Councilmember Stevens, it looked like you were trying to say something.
Well, I'm thinking also the administration is going to bring back how many roads or streets we have this way. And I think that'll be part of the cost factor and part of the analogy that we need to resolve.
Right, which they had done, but it's not separated between the cul-de-sac and the narrow streets at this time.
Right.
Great. Well, we'd be happy to take some public input if anybody would like to speak. Brandon, would you mind explaining how a person might do that?
Not at all. Thank you, Chair. To provide public input on this item, you need to be joining us via Zoom, and by using the raise hand feature, which is found at the bottom of the app. So if you just click or tap that, your hand will be raised, and then you will be allotted 3 minutes to address the council again on this item only.
No. Okay.
Not seeing any hands at this time. Just wait another moment just in case.
I should mention as well, okay, yes. If you are joining us via telephone, you do need to press *6 to raise your hand, and one of the two callers did that already, so I'm glad that you figured that out. Caller with the number ending in 415, the time is now yours. Please state your name for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
And do they need to take themselves off mute as well with, is it *6?
Okay, my name is Lorna Bennett. I currently own 2 properties that are on Harrop Street. It's a dead end. So my concern is if you want us to be bringing our garbage down to Adams Avenue, have you considered the fact of how wide Adams is? And there's cars parked on both sides there. So there will be cars parked there, but you're asking 12 households to bring down 2 garbage cans each week. And according to where you have your big garbage trucks and they have those arms, we're required to have them spaced out. How are we going to put that many garbage cans down there along with the other people that are on Adams with their garbage cans and the amount of cars that are parked along there? And then my second question or comment, since you're requiring us to have to do half the work, is the amount that we have to pay for this service being reduced? And then my third question and comment is, who's going to pay for any liabilities during the winter if somebody slips and falls on the snow or ice? Is the city paying for that? Because if it's a city road and my homeowners ain't going to pay for somebody getting hurt on a city road. And there's no sidewalks up Harrop.
We have old.
And also, most of the residents up this street are elderly. And so they can't be asked to push a heavy garbage can down a street. And I said, especially during the winter months or even during the summer months when it's 110 degrees outside.
Well, thank you so much for your call. I don't know if you're finished with your comment. I was just going to ask you a question.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, go ahead, Councilmember White.
I just missed where she lives. Sorry.
Harrop.
I own 2 residents that are on Harrop Street.
Thank you.
It is a block up from Washington.
Yeah, I just couldn't hear you before. Thank you.
And I just have a quick question, if you don't mind. You did have about 1 minute left when I interrupted you, but we were discussing, having some parking regulations that might be used instead of having and I don't know what your street situation is in particular, but is that something that would be a hardship as well as having limited parking on the street?
No, because nobody parks up and down the street. They all have 1 or 2 driveways, and the cars are parked in the driveways.
Okay, great. Just curious. Thank you for being willing to answer. Are there any other comments on this item? I'm not seeing any hands. I'm reluctant to close the session, but okay, is there any further discussion about this item?
Yeah, Chair, I think that our work session discussion was, pardon me, very productive. It was a good back and forth with the administrative side of the government and as well as council members. And I think that if you're okay with a motion, I would be happy to make a motion on item engineering standards on refuse carts, Ordinance 2020-53, that we table that to November 17th. That will give the administration some time to work through some of those issues that were brought up in the work session. And we can have another work session on November 10th, a week before we have to make the decision on this. So my motion is to table to the 17th.
Second.
Thank you. So we have a motion by Councilmember Heyer and a second by Councilmember Nadolski to table this event, or this item, I'm sorry. That be a voice vote? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, I appreciate that.
I do have a quick question. So there was some confusion about people trying to come in on public comment. Will we have public comment again? Or public input, I'm sorry.
Do you mean on this item?
Determination. Oh, sorry, Councilmember Heyer.
I apologize. Did you want to say something, Councilmember Heyer?
I didn't understand her question very well.
About this item?
Yeah, so there were a few people that were confused over public input, and I just wondered if they would have another chance on November 17th to provide public input again.
And Amy, were you saying that's our discretion?
Yes, that's correct. So it's not a public hearing, and so it's really, I think, completely up to you. If you'd like to open that up again, we can plan on doing that on the agenda.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
I think that would be good. Also, they can send us emails or texts if they'd like. And I'd encourage maybe the administration maybe go out and look at Harrop and just see what how narrow that road is out there.
And I would suggest that as well. I would be in favor, just only because it seemed like there was some confusion over whether it was last night or tonight. And so I would just hate for others to not be able to hear us or have input. So
yeah, and I'm sure that the staff members have thought through the issue with the 24 garbage bins added to the Adams Avenue, but that might be something to think about in different situations depending on how crowded those streets are. It's complicated.
Thanks, Taylor and Vince.
Yeah, thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. Next up, we invite Deputy Police Chief Eric Young to talk a little bit about the disposition of unclaimed property.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me tonight. I have Captain Subi on with me as well. You'll see him there on the screen. So we were with you along with Mara and one of the representatives from the County Attorney's Office, I think about a month and a half ago, to talk about some proposed resolutions in regards to, number one, some unclaimed property that need to be transferred from Weber County to Ogden City in accordance with our taking over the financial or fiscal responsibility of the Weber Morgan Narcotic Strike Force. And then we had two proposals to dispose of unclaimed property, specifically firearms, one by the Strike Force, Weber Morgan Narcotic Strike Force, then the other by the Ogden City Police Department. The one with Strike Force, they preferred to sell their firearms and take those funds and use them for operational costs and for unfunded improvements and maintenance needs that they're building. The police department was suggesting that primarily we'll dispose of our firearms, of which we have about 300 right now, or at least within the last month, we have about 300 firearms that would need to be disposed of, by turn them over to the Department of Public Safety and the crime lab to have them test fired for our NIBIM program and then destroyed. And then there would be some circumstances wherein we were in possession of some highly valuable firearms. To be honest, it doesn't happen very often. Most of them are garbage and junk. Sometimes something could come through that was more of a collector's item or a valuable item. Then we would come back to the city council with a specific request to sell those items through a federal firearms dealer and use them. We'd also detail how we're going to use the funds from those sales internally in the police department for a public use, to benefit of public use. The one change since our last meeting is there was a request from the council that we go ahead and get a recommendation from the Weaver Morgan Narcotics Strike Force Board, of which I currently sit as the chair. We did discuss that in our September Chiefs meeting, or we have a Chiefs meeting, then we have the board of the Strike Force, or the Chiefs who actually have members participating on the Strike Force. At that time we met, we discussed the situation. They voted unanimously to recommend to the city council that they approve this resolution to allow the Strike Force to dispose of their firearms and abandoned money in that nature, and that the Strike Force Board would be responsible for approving of the utilization of those funds. More or less, the Strike Force commander has to report back to the Strike Force Board annually with how the budget was proposed for that year and how these funds were dispersed throughout the budget. And that was transmitted, I think, about 2 weeks ago to you.
Yeah, I see that. Thank you. Are there any questions or comments about these items?
I have one question, Chair. I'm sorry I'm doing so much talking today.
Oh, I appreciate it.
But Chief Young, when firearms are sold, isn't there a federal regulation that they go through a firearms dealer, someone that's licensed as a firearms dealer? And so I guess my question is maybe how do you go about making sure that the transition is legal when you sell firearms?
Yeah, absolutely. It does have to go through a federal firearms dealer, a licensed federal firearms dealer. And we don't currently have a contract in place with a licensed firearms dealer. So we would have to go out to RFP and let them submit bids to the city to actually be the contracting agent or the federal firearms dealing agent for the police department to dispose of those or to sell those. And then basically their RFP would basically be what they suggest they take as their portion of the transaction fee versus what the city would receive back. But it would follow our normal purchasing procedures to approve an RFP to enter into that contract with the dealer.
I just wanted to make sure that got on the record. Thanks, Chief Young.
Do you do a background check on the dealer?
We would make sure that it's a reputable dealer without any previous issues. And then the dealers are required to do background checks on anyone who's purchasing the firearm.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments? We sure do appreciate you coming to the meeting to talk with us.
Okay, well, that was easy. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
I'd be happy to entertain any motions on these items.
Chair, I'd make a motion then that we adopt resolution 2020-28.
I second it.
We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer and a second by Councilmember Stevens to approve proposed resolution 2020-28. And this is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Heyer.
Aye.
Councilmember Nadolski.
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Vice Chair Blair.
Aye.
Chair Chaburka.
Aye. And that passes. How about the next item?
I'll make another motion that we adopt resolution 2020-29.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer and a second by Councilmember Nadolski to adopt resolution 2020-29. This is also a roll call vote.
Councilmember Nadolski.
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer.
Aye.
Vice Chair Blair.
Aye.
Chair Chaburka.
Aye, and that passes. Thank you, everyone. So finally on our agenda, we have public comment. This is an opportunity to address the council regarding concerns or ideas on any topic. We please state your name for the record and only take 3 minutes. Maybe we should explain how to participate again, Bannon. I'm not sure if everybody's the same from the other time.
No problem.
Thank you.
Again, if you're joining us via Zoom, you are welcome to participate in public comments by using the raise hand feature found at the bottom of the application. And since we no longer have anyone joining us via telephone, I will not explain that. So with that, we await any raised hands.
Notice we have a couple representatives from the Diversity Commission on the meeting. Thanks so much for attending. I'm not seeing any hands raised, though.
Do you know what, Chair Chaburka? Give me 1 second. I think hand raising may, okay, well, that would explain it. So hand raising was not enabled just then. There we go.
Okay, but it was enabled before the last time we had public input?
Unfortunately, that is the case.
It was or it was not?
It was not activated. I'm sorry. I had it turned off for the work session and did not turn it on for the meeting.
Hey, this technology, it's troublesome, that's for sure. Well, yeah, so maybe, hopefully those people heard that they'll be able to comment again the next time on that item. Thanks for bringing that up, Amy and Marcia, right? Great, so it does look like we have a couple hands raised.
Betty Sawyer, the time is yours. Please state your name for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. A pleasure to join you this evening. In terms of comments, I had a comment with the previous presentation by Ogden City Police Department, and it was more of a question to find out if they've ever or if any ordinance allowed them in those confiscated items that any of those proceeds go to nonprofits, organizations that serve our community.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Do you have any other comments before we ask for a response?
If I just needed to comment on that part, or could it be on anything tonight?
Anything. This is public comment for any item or any idea.
Okay. The other item is that the Marcia White Advisory Board, I know that was on the work session agenda tonight, and I didn't get to hear that part of the session, but I want to make sure that we meaning the Ogden NAACP and others with the Diversity Commission that have been involved with this process, get regular updates on what the deliberations are, where we are in the process for the advisory council itself, as well as the feasibility study. I have not received any kind of correspondence, and I don't know if I had to request that or if that would have been automatic because of our prior involvement and questions around this issue. But I would like to know where we are on both of those issues.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm not sure if anybody in the administration would like to respond to either of those.
I don't think we know the answer to the first one, and Chief Young is not still on the phone, but I have my doubts that we can donate that to nonprofits, but that's something that legal and the police need to inform us. We can get back to you, but I don't know the answer. As far as the Marcia White Committee, we've hired a company to do the assessment, and the committee will be voted on by the council next week to put the committee in place and also to give advice and consent on the mayor's recommendations for the committee.
Thanks so much, Mark. And then I just also should say, Betty, that during the work session, we were discussing just some updates with the ordinance for the committee, since it kind of sunset, and they wanted to update some of the, the membership, who it's made up of, and some of the other items on there. So I'd be happy to share that document with you later. And I do think, yeah, it would be a great idea if there's a possibility. I mean, I guess I wonder, I think the other committees that we have, like the Diversity Commission or the Sustainability Committee, their minutes are available to the public, right?
Could be.
Yes.
So these would be the same. I know in some cases, like in the Sustainability Committee, there's a list of people that wanted to keep updated about particular items. So I don't know if that's something that we could consider for this as well.
And all their meetings would be public meetings.
Okay. Great. Yeah. So once we have the schedule set up.
Chair, can I add to the discussion?
Please.
Thank you. I'm sure we'll get more to it when we consider the item in the chambers in the future. But it would be my hope that members of the committee would be, the meetings would be open, they're public meetings, but also that members of the committee would be open to communicating with members of the community, because that's why we would have such a committee, is to get the feedback from the community through the committee. So I would hope that there would be an open dialogue between the committee and the community, because at the end of the day, what we need is not just recommendations, but recommendations that I hope that the committee and therefore the community feel some buy-in and support for. So that would be my hope. But also, since Betty's on the line, just a quick congratulations for, I think, a new grandbaby. So that's all I had to say. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Looks like Betty, I'm not sure if she has her hand up again on purpose. She did have a little bit more time, but I don't know. Maybe we'll go ahead and go to the next caller, and then we'll see if Betty remains with her hand up.
Heath Sada, the time is yours. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes and state your name for the record.
Hey, everybody. Heath Sato, Ogden resident.
Hi.
Hey, did you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I was really glad to hear today so much discussion about our pressing housing needs in the work session, particularly Marcia's input. So thanks to all of you for starting that conversation. Let's keep that going. So it's fitting that my comments today are regarding the rushed update to our C2, C3 building code. I would like to open with a quote from a former Ogden Planning Commissioner. Quote, "As a member of Ogden's Planning Commission, I have learned that we are not prepared for Ogden's expanding housing needs. There are growth issues on the horizon for us. If these problems are not addressed and planned for, they will profoundly impact our quality of life. My concern for our amazing city is that we retain what makes us special. I want Ogden to look and feel like Ogden as we grow and not model it to mimic another city like Denver, Colorado." These statements were written on the campaign website of Mayor Caldwell's challenger in the election back in April of 2000, 19 months ago. While that person was serving as a planning commissioner, she saw these problems coming a mile away long before the city took action, which makes me believe that the planning department also saw this coming. That individual was the person Mayor Caldwell had removed from the Planning Commission, and that was the first person Caldwell removed from the Planning Commission in his entire tenure as mayor. That aside, if that planning commissioner saw this happening 19 months ago, why did this administration only start the process of looking at these problems 6 months ago? Because this process had to be fast-tracked, everyone on the council and the planning commission admits we had to ram this new code through too fast, and we'll have to fix it later. My question is why? There's absolutely no reason this had to be a rush job that we place Band-Aids on later. It makes it harder for good developers to trust Ogden as a place to invest, and it wastes taxpayer dollars when we put half-baked code in place that we have to continually update. Our general plan and building code, to my knowledge, had not been significantly updated for 20 years. There's no good reason we should have to rush this process if the city is being properly managed. City Planner Gregory Montgomery himself said during his presentation last week that the planning department had, quote, noticed this trend over the last 7 years, unquote, on this issue. Why did we end up with half-baked code done in a rush? This is utterly irresponsible, and those we trust to manage the city need to do better. We deserve better. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Heath. I'm not sure if anybody would like to comment about that. I think Ben is waving to his neighbors, not raising his hand to participate. Okay. Okay. I don't mind letting Betty just talk for another minute. She did have a minute left. Maybe she had a comment back with us. Does anybody else mind that?
Nope.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I did have a comment back, so thank you so much for that.
You bet.
My other one was the NAACP is not only looking for communication from the committee once it's established, but we're looking for communication from the staff, because the committee will act on what the staff is recommending and things that come to them as well. So like I said, in terms of even the RFP with the company that the city has hired to do the study, I'd be interested in knowing what was included in that as well. What are they looking for? What are they looking to do? And the other, like the commenter before, I did appreciate the conversation around planning on housing. I think it's critical that Ogden City has a housing plan, a long-term and short-term housing plan. Like everything else that we do, it needs to be embodied in a strategic plan so that we're forward-thinking and not reacting. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. And we were talking about that quite a bit in the work session, which Heath referred to. And I don't know, the RFP, I think, is probably public record, right? Nobody has to request that. It's probably available somewhere, right? I don't know. Yeah, Mark is shaking his head. Yes, I believe it is. Thank you. Awesome. Any other public comment? Well, we certainly appreciate those of you that attend the meetings and then participate as well. Any comments from you, Mayor Caldwell?
Sure. A couple of quick things. I want to just take a page from Doug Stevens and say it'll be Ogden by 5 for the Iron Horse game tomorrow night. I'm sorry, Councilman Heyer, Councilman Stevens. I think that's going to go. I appreciate Marcia. You ought to appreciate that we have lights off at 6. So as part of your sustainability program, you got to know that we're internally doing that. And there's a lot of internal guidelines that came out from the governor's office today about COVID-19. And I hope everybody can be careful about that and seriously consider that. And, I'll take a little offense to somebody reading from a script and saying we're not doing any planning information. I'm going to protect my staff and what's happened in this community in the last 8 years. I don't find that to be fair at all. We have done a lot of work on that, and nobody 8 years ago could have predicted where we are today, but we do it every day. Those guys are absolutely committed to the jobs that they do and what we're working on, and as are all of you. And I think it's unfair for somebody to say that nothing's been looked at, nothing's being considered for that. So I'll take offense to that and not give other political comments, which I think they're motivated by. But I appreciate our planning staff and our community and economic development department, and I'll stand up for them because they've done a phenomenal job in really dynamic circumstances. And I think you all have too. This is an unprecedented time for everyone. And I think everybody's doing a yeoman's job of working through some issues that just don't have easy mathematical or arithmetic to get figured out. So I appreciate you all being willing to have some of these hard conversations. I appreciate our planning department and everything that they're doing. I think you're all doing a phenomenal job, and we live in one of the best places in America, and I'm real proud of that. So we'll take our shots and we'll move on, but just need to know I'm very grateful to you all. And I thought it was awesome to appreciate Susie Van Hooser earlier. She's been a great person in our community, and anybody that's been an elementary school teacher for as long as she has and touched so many kids' lives, those are the things I like to celebrate. So thank you all very much for doing that.
Thanks so much, Mayor Caldwell. Any council members like to make a comment?
Chair?
Yes.
Been Lowman by 10, and I talked to Johnson. I got inside sources on that. Mayor, if Ogden wins, I'll take you to lunch. If Lowman wins, you take us to lunch.
We have the wife of the head coach that works for the city, and we both agreed in our department director meeting this morning that either way, there's going to be one sad family in our group of department directors at home this after tomorrow at 4.
Unless it's a tie. There could be a tie, right?
Not like.
Or do they play to death or something? I don't know. I guess I don't know the game very well. Any other comments?
Chair, I have a quick comment.
Yes.
Came today.
I saw in mine too.
So I just want to say that every election year is really important, but I just really want to make sure, because there's a lot of rhetoric about mail-in ballots, and I know that our Weber County elections group has done a phenomenal job as far as making sure that they are checking signatures and making sure that one ballot, one person. And so I just want to reiterate that if you don't get your ballot, give the Weber Elections group a call. And once you get your ballot, if you don't feel comfortable mailing it in, there's a drop box at 26th or the City County building at 26th and Washington. There's a lot of ways, and in fact, you can actually vote in person on November 3rd. So I just want to make sure that people know that their ballots are coming, to look for them, to get them in. It's really important to do so. So every year is important, not this one this one included. So
thank you. Councilmember Heyer, did you want to say something? Oh, you're on mute.
There. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks, Marcia, for the vote of confidence for our Weber County people. I've toured their facility. They do it as good as it can be done. I still got to say voting in person is certainly the most secure, but they've done everything that can be done to make sure that it's good in Weber County. But I have had my go-arounds with our postal service, so I'm gonna take mine to the drop box for the ballots, just because I want to because it will for certain get there if you do that. And on the other item with respects to a notice of pending ordinance, which Greg did 6 months ago, it can only be 6 months. It's so to try and say that we've rushed it through because of something else, we rushed it through because you only get 6 months. And I think the trend was noticed quick and early on that we needed to do this. And I'm appreciative of Greg for his savvy and his quick action, and for getting that through there. I have 16 years on the Planning Commission, so I also have that experience as well. So, and I think that our planning department does a great job.
If you're worried, you can drive up in your car to the Weber County Fairgrounds on November 3rd, wear a mask. You can vote in person if you don't feel comfortable with this or mailing it in. So you even have that option. I mean, look what Weber County's doing.
Yep, they're great.
Thank you. And there's also drop-off ballot boxes at every county library. Any other comments? Well, thanks, everyone. And as Mayor Caldwell mentioned, I was watching the governor's press conference with a lot of interest today, as you know, because I work for a giant healthcare system, and we've been very worried about the numbers. And so I believe as of Thursday, the Weber County will be under the moderate label. And that means that we will have masks required by public health order in Weber County on Thursday. So I know lots of people have reached out to us about a mask mandate. Either they're concerned about it or not concerned, but I did really appreciate the press conference today just covering thinking about these specific health measures in each community and not kind of taking it out of the hands of more political conversations and looking at a couple different indicators, which include not only the case counts in the county, but also the ICU bed availability and some other things too. So check it out on the covid.utah.gov, I think it is, or something like that website, and you can see more information about that too. So I really appreciated that. And with that, I believe that we can adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. All in favor?
Second. I'll do a second.
Second. Thank you. Second. I think that was a second by Vice Chair Blair. Did he help me out there? Mm-hmm. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Stay safe.
Thanks, Angela.